There are doors in Israel that haven't been opened in centuries, some for 500 years, some for 2,000. Some have never been opened at all, not because they're lost, not because we lack the technology, but because Jewish law explicitly forbids it. The Golden Gate on the Temple Mount, sealed since the Ottomans blocked it in the 16th century. But the prohibition goes back much further, to the prophet Ezekiel, who said it must remain shut until the Messiah enters through it. The cave of Machpelah in Hebron, where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are buried. The actual burial chamber has been sealed for millennia. Jewish tradition says disturbing their rest brings divine judgment. The Temple Mount itself. Most religious Jews won't even walk on it, because somewhere beneath the dome of the rock is the exact spot where the Holy of Holies once stood, and stepping there without knowing the precise location would be desecration. The Ark of the Covenant, missing since Babylon destroyed the first temple. Jewish law prohibits searching for it, not because it's lost, because it's hidden. By divine command, Rachel's tomb in Bethlehem, sealed inner chamber, no one enters. The graves of the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem, 71 judges who interpreted Torah, their tombs deliberately closed during the Roman siege. 6 doors, 6 prohibitions, all rooted in Scripture. But here's the question most people don't ask. Why would God command that some things remain sealed? Is it to protect sacred ground? To preserve something too holy for human hands? Or is there a deeper reason connected to prophecy, to the resurrection, to mysteries that only the Messiah can reveal? This video explores all 6. Not to argue they should be opened, but to understand what Jewish law actually teaches about doors that must stay closed, and why, for 3,000 years, the Jewish people have obeyed that command, even when surrounded by empires, conquerors, and archaeologists demanding access. Let's examine them one by one. The eastern wall of the Temple Mount holds a massive gate, 2 arches, Ottoman stonework, sealed shut since 1541. The Golden Gate, or in Hebrew, the Gate of Mercy. Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent ordered it permanently closed, but the prohibition against opening it predates the Ottomans by over 2,000 years. Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 2. Written during the Babylonian exile, or 6 centuries before Christ. Then the Lord said to me, "This gate shall remain shut, it shall not be opened, and no one shall enter by it. For the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it. Therefore it shall remain shut." Jewish tradition interprets this as a prophecy. The gate must stay closed until the Messiah comes and enters through it himself. Some scholars believe this refers to the eastern gate of the Second Temple, which was destroyed in 70 AD. Others believe it refers to a future gate in a rebuilt Third Temple. But the dominant interpretation is simpler. The current Golden Gate, sealed until the Messiah arrives. Suleiman knew this tradition, and many historians believe he sealed the gate not just for security, but to prevent the Jewish Messiah from entering Jerusalem. He went further. He built a Muslim cemetery directly in front of the gate, because according to Jewish law, a Cohen, a priest descended from Aaron, cannot walk through a graveyard. It renders him ritually impure. If the Messiah is a descendant of Aaron, Suleiman reasoned, he can't cross the cemetery to reach the gate. Checkmate. But Jewish tradition has an answer. When the Messiah comes, the dead will rise, the graves will open, the cemetery will empty, and the gate will open by itself, not by human hands, but by divine will. For nearly 5 centuries, that gate has remained sealed, and every year thousands of Jews pray at the Western Wall facing east toward it, believing that one day it will open, not through archaeology, not through politics, but when the time is right. Is this literal prophecy? Symbolic theology? A rabbinic interpretation that evolved over centuries? Jewish law doesn't require certainty on that question. It only requires obedience. Don't force the gate open. Don't violate what Ezekiel prophesied. Wait. And so they do. Today, that cemetery still stands. The Ottoman stones still block the gate, and religious Jews still refuse to approach it, not out of fear of Suleiman's strategy, but out of reverence for what Ezekiel wrote. Because if the prophecy is true, forcing the gate open wouldn't hasten the Messiah's arrival. It would only prove that those who opened it didn't believe he was coming at all. The Golden Gate remains closed, not by Ottoman decree, by Scripture, by faith that what God has sealed only God can open. And every prayer at the Western Wall facing east is an act of waiting, not passive resignation, active hope, that one day the stones will crumble, the graves will empty, and the Messiah will enter through the gate that's been waiting for him for 500 years, or perhaps for over 2,000. Hebron, an ancient city in the West Bank, the second holiest site in Judaism after the Temple Mount. A massive stone structure rises above the landscape, built by Herod the Great over 2,000 years ago. Fortified walls, imposing architecture. Inside, a mosque and a synagogue share the space, but beneath it all lies something far older. The cave of Machpelah, the burial place of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah. Genesis chapter 23 records the purchase. Abraham buys the cave and the field surrounding it from Ephron the Hittite for 400 shekels of silver. It's the first piece of the promised land that Abraham legally owns, and he uses it to bury his wife Sarah. For nearly 4,000 years, that cave has been revered as sacred ground. But here's what most people don't realize. The actual burial chamber has been sealed for millennia. What visitors see today, the cenotaphs, the prayer halls, are all above ground. The cave itself, inaccessible. In the 12th century, during the Crusades, a group of monks claimed they lowered a lamp through a small opening in the floor. They reported seeing stone coffins, bones, ancient artifacts. Then they sealed the hole. In the 19th century, an Italian explorer named Ermite Pierotti bribed local guards and descended into the cave through a narrow shaft. He claimed to have seen burial chambers, ossuaries, Hebrew inscriptions carved into the walls. 3 weeks later, he died. Mysterious illness. No clear cause. Coincidence? Perhaps. But Jewish tradition holds that disturbing the graves of the righteous brings divine judgment, not just on the individual who violates the tomb, on entire communities. The Talmud is explicit about this. The tombs of the patriarchs are not archaeological sites. They're sacred ground. Entering them without divine permission is desecration, profanation, a violation of the covenant itself. So the cave remains sealed, not because we lack the technology to open it. Ground-penetrating radar could map the chambers. Robotic cameras could explore them without human entry. The Israeli government has the resources. Archaeologists have the interest. But the chief rabbinate says no, because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob weren't just tribal leaders. They were men who spoke with God face to face, who received promises that shaped the destiny of nations, whose covenant with God is still active, still binding, still the foundation of Jewish identity. Disturbing their rest isn't curiosity, It's sacrilege. And so the cave stays closed, not by Herodian stone alone, by Torah law, by reverence for men who walked with God in ways we no longer understand. Will it ever be opened? Jewish tradition says yes, when the Messiah comes, when the dead rise, when resurrection makes the question of disturbing graves irrelevant, because the graves will be empty. Until then, the patriarchs rest, and their descendants guard that rest, just as they've been commanded to do for nearly 4,000 years. Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, the most contested piece of real estate on earth. To Muslims, it's the noble sanctuary, where the Dome of the Rock stands, where Muhammad ascended to heaven. To Jews, it's the holiest site in Judaism, where Solomon built the first temple, where the Ark of the Covenant rested in the Holy of Holies, where the presence of God, the Shekinah, dwelt among his people. The first temple was destroyed by Babylon in 586 BC, rebuilt 70 years later, expanded by Herod into one of the architectural wonders of the ancient world, then destroyed again by Rome in 70 AD, and it has never been rebuilt. Today, the Dome of the Rock sits where the temple once stood, a Muslim shrine built in 691 AD, and beneath it, somewhere on that 37-acre platform, is the exact location where the Holy of Holies once stood. The problem? No one knows exactly where. When Rome destroyed the temple, they dismantled it so thoroughly that the precise measurements were lost. Jewish scholars have debated the location for 2,000 years. Some believe the Dome of the Rock sits directly on top of it. Others place it to the north, others to the south. And here's why that matters. According to Halakha, Jewish law, stepping on the spot where the Holy of Holies once stood is forbidden, absolutely, without exception. Why? Because that was the place where only the high priest could enter, once a year, on Yom Kippur, after extensive purification rituals, to offer sacrifice and intercede for the nation. Entering that space in a state of ritual impurity was punishable by death. And according to Jewish law, everyone today is ritually impure, because the ritual purification required for entering the Holy of Holies involved ashes from a red heifer mixed with water, and that ritual hasn't been performed in 2,000 years. So here's the dilemma. If you don't know where the Holy of Holies was, and you can't purify yourself, even if you did know, then walking anywhere on the Temple Mount risks desecrating the holiest spot on earth. The solution? Most religious Jews don't walk on the Temple Mount at all. Period. Some rabbis have attempted to map out safe zones using ancient measurements and Talmudic descriptions, narrow paths where it's theoretically permissible to walk. But the majority opinion remains. Don't risk it. Stay off entirely. This isn't about politics. It's not about Muslims controlling the site. It's about Torah law, about reverence for a place where God's presence once rested in a way it rests nowhere else on earth. Beneath the mount, there are tunnels, chambers, sealed rooms that haven't been opened in millennia. Archaeologists have requested access. The Israeli government has considered excavation, but the chief rabbinate forbids it. Not until the Messiah comes. Not until the third temple is built. Not until a prophet with divine authority tells us exactly where we can walk, because some mysteries aren't meant to be solved by human effort. Some doors stay closed until God Himself opens them, and the Temple Mount, the heart of Jewish faith, the center of ancient worship, the place where heaven and earth once met, remains a sealed door, one that billions of prayers face toward, but one that remains forbidden to enter. until the time is right. 3 doors down, 3 more to go. And the next one is the most mysterious of all, because it's not just sealed, it's missing, hidden for 26 centuries. And Jewish law says it must stay that way until the Messiah reveals it. If you want to know what it is and why it can't be found, hit subscribe, because only 5% of people watching actually do. Be part of that 5%, somewhere beneath Jerusalem, or perhaps in Ethiopia, or Mount Nebo in Jordan, or a cave near the Dead Sea, the Ark of the Covenant, the golden chest overlaid with pure gold, containing the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments, Aaron's staff that budded, a jar of manna from the wilderness, the most sacred object in Jewish history, and it's been missing for 2,600 years. The last confirmed sighting? The first temple, before Babylon destroyed it in 586 BC. After that, silence. When the second temple was built 70 years later, the returning exiles brought back the sacred vessels Nebuchadnezzar had stolen, but not the ark. The Holy of Holies in the second temple was empty, just a stone platform where the ark used to sit. So, where did it go? The Talmud offers hints, not answers. Hints. One tradition says King Josiah, knowing through prophecy that the temple would be destroyed, hid the ark in a secret chamber beneath the Temple Mount, sealed it away, protected it from Babylonian hands. Another tradition says the prophet Jeremiah took it to Mount Nebo in Jordan, the same mountain where Moses saw the promised land before he died. Jeremiah sealed it in a cave. And, according to 2 Maccabees, the place shall remain unknown until God gathers his people together again and shows his mercy. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church has a different claim. They say the ark rests in a chapel in Axum, guarded by a single monk who never leaves. No one else is allowed to see it. Ever. Not scholars, not archaeologists, not even Ethiopian church leaders. Is it real? A replica? No one knows, because no one can verify it. But here's what's certain. Jewish law prohibits searching for the ark. Not because it's lost, because it's hidden. Deliberately, by divine command. The ark wasn't just a box. It was the throne of God on earth, the place where his presence dwelt among his people. And it was dangerous. When the Philistines captured it in battle, tumors broke out among them, plagues spread. They returned it in terror, desperate to be rid of it. When a man named Uzzah reached out to steady the ark as it was being transported, even with good intentions, he died instantly. Struck down for touching what was holy. The ark didn't need guards. It guarded itself. And according to Jewish tradition, it will remain hidden until the Messiah reveals it. No human effort will find it. No excavation. No ground-penetrating radar. No archaeological expedition. It's sealed, not by stone or metal, by divine will. Modern technology has detected anomalies beneath the Temple Mount, chambers, voids, possible hiding places. Some researchers believe the ark is there, sealed in Josiah's hidden chamber. But the chief rabbinate forbids digging, not because they doubt it's there, because they believe it is. And disturbing it without divine authorization would be catastrophic. Not just for the person who finds it, for the nation, for the world. Because the ark represents something most people don't understand, the presence of a holy God dwelling among an unholy people, a presence so pure, so powerful, that approaching it incorrectly meant death. That presence left the temple before Babylon destroyed it. Ezekiel saw it depart in a vision, rising from the Holy of Holies, moving east, leaving Jerusalem, and it hasn't returned. Jewish tradition says it will return, when the Messiah comes, when the third temple is built, when Israel is fully restored. Until then, the ark stays hidden, waiting, just like the Golden Gate, just like the graves of the patriarchs, sealed by God, until God decides the time is right to reveal it again. Bethlehem, the road to Ephrath, a small stone structure, white walls, a dome, surrounded by concrete barriers and Israeli soldiers. Inside, the tomb of Rachel, Jacob's beloved wife, mother of Joseph and Benjamin. Genesis chapter 35 records her death. She died in childbirth on the road to Bethlehem. Jacob buried her there, not in the family tomb at Machpelah, but on the road where she died. And Jewish tradition says there's a reason. Rachel remains there to intercede for her children, to weep for them, to pray for them as they pass by in exile. The prophet Jeremiah wrote about this. Chapter 31, verse 15. A voice is heard in Ramah, mourning and great weeping. Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted, because they are no more. For thousands of years, Jewish women have come to Rachel's tomb to pray, for children, for healing, for protection, because Rachel, who died bringing life into the world, understands the pain of motherhood in ways no one else can. But here's what most visitors don't realize. The tomb they see, the cenotaph, the prayer hall, is above ground. The actual burial chamber, sealed, inaccessible. In the 19th century, Ottoman authorities proposed opening it. Jewish leaders protested. The Sultan backed down. In the 20th century, archaeologists suggested excavation. The chief rabbinate refused, because Rachel isn't a historical artifact. She's a mother, and according to Jewish tradition, she's still watching, still weeping, still interceding for her children. Jewish law treats the tombs of the righteous as living presences, not dead monuments. The souls of the righteous, tradition teaches, remain connected to their bones, not trapped, connected, which means disturbing the grave disturbs the soul. Modern skeptics dismiss this as superstition, medieval folk belief. But for observant Jews, it's Torah law. And Torah law doesn't bend to modern sensibilities, so the tomb stays closed, not by Ottoman decree, by reverence, by the belief that some things are too sacred to touch, that some people, even in death, deserve to rest undisturbed. Will Rachel's tomb ever be opened? Jewish tradition says yes, when the resurrection comes, when the dead rise, when Rachel herself walks out to greet the children she's been weeping for across the centuries. Until then, the chamber stays sealed, and her descendants continue to pray, just as they've done for nearly 4,000 years. Northern Jerusalem, the Sanhedria neighborhood, a massive cave complex carved into limestone rock, 70 burial chambers, ornate facades, stone benches where bodies were laid before being placed in ossuaries. This is the traditional burial place of the Sanhedrin, the 71 judges who formed the Supreme Court of ancient Israel, the men who sat in Moses' seat, who interpreted Torah, who judged the nation. The Talmud records their names, their rulings, their debates over law and theology that shaped Jewish thought for millennia, but their bones, sealed in rock. The cave complex is partially accessible. Tourists can enter the outer chambers, see the carved stone, the benches, the niches where ossuaries once sat. But the inner chambers, blocked, collapsed, deliberately sealed. In the 1st century, during the Roman siege of Jerusalem, someone sealed these tombs, not to hide treasure, to protect the judges themselves, because desecrating their graves would be desecrating the law they spent their lives interpreting. Jewish tradition holds that the souls of the righteous remain connected to their bones, which means disturbing their rest disturbs their souls, and disturbing the souls of men who spoke for God is not something to be done lightly. Modern archaeology has the tools to map the complex: ground-penetrating radar, sonar, robotic cameras that could explore the sealed chambers without physical entry. The Israeli Antiquities Authority has expressed interest. Archaeologists have requested permits, but the chief rabbinate says no, not because they fear what's inside, but because they know what's inside. The bones of men who preserved Torah through exile, who maintained Jewish law when the temple was destroyed, who kept the faith alive when everything else was falling apart. These weren't just judges, they were the bridge between the age of prophets and the age of rabbis, between temple worship and synagogue study, between ancient Israel and modern Judaism, and their legacy isn't in their bones. It's in the rulings they left behind, the interpretations still studied in yeshivas today, the wisdom still guiding Jewish life 2,000 years later. Disturbing their graves wouldn't reveal anything we don't already have. It would only violate something we're commanded to protect. So the inner chambers stay sealed, the judges rest, and their wisdom continues to guide a people who honor them by leaving them in peace. One day, according to Jewish belief, the dead will rise, the Messiah will come, the judges will stand again, and then the doors will open, not by human hands, but by divine will. Until that day, the graves remain closed, guarded not by stone, but by Scripture, by law, by reverence for men who gave their lives to preserving the Word of God. 6 doors, spanning 4,000 years of history, all sealed, all forbidden to open. But what connects them? The answer isn't politics, it's theology. The Golden Gate stays closed because Ezekiel prophesied it. And prophecy in Jewish thought isn't just prediction, it's command. If God says a gate must remain shut until the Messiah comes, then opening it isn't archaeology. It's rebellion. The cave of Machpelah stays sealed because Torah commands honoring the dead, especially the dead who walked with God. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, these weren't just ancestors. They were covenant partners with the Almighty. Their rest is sacred, and violating it brings judgment. The Temple Mount stays forbidden because we don't know where God's presence rested, and approaching that presence in a state of impurity meant death. Still does, according to Jewish law. Better to stay off the mount entirely than risk desecrating the holiest spot on earth. The ark stays hidden because God hid it. And what God hides, humans don't have permission to seek. The ark wasn't lost through negligence or war. It was deliberately concealed. Until the time comes for it to be revealed, searching for it is presumption. Rachel's tomb stays closed because she's not a museum exhibit. She's a mother, still interceding, still weeping, still watching over children who pass by her grave in exile. Disturbing her rest would be cruelty. The Sanhedrin graves stay sealed because those men gave their lives to preserving Torah. And the best way to honor them isn't through excavation. It's through obedience to the law they spent their lives interpreting. Here's what separates Jewish law from modern archaeology. Modern science believes knowledge justifies intrusion, that curiosity overrides reverence, that if we have the technology to open something, we should open it. Torah says the opposite. If God commands that something remain sealed, then it stays sealed. Period. Not because Jews fear what's inside, but because they trust that God has reasons we don't fully understand, and that some mysteries are meant to wait. The world we live in worships information, transparency, the idea that every secret should be revealed, every door opened, every mystery solved. But the Jews have kept doors closed for 3,000 years. Through empires, through conquests, through exile and persecution and pressure from every direction. And they're still here, while Babylon fell, while Rome collapsed, while empires that demanded these doors be opened have turned to dust. The doors stayed closed, and the people who guard them remain. Jerusalem, today. A rabbi stands at the western wall, praying, facing east, toward the Golden Gate, still sealed, still waiting. Tourists walk by, cameras in hand, asking questions. Why don't they just open it? What are they afraid of? The rabbi doesn't answer. He doesn't need to, because he understands something they don't, that some doors aren't locked to keep people out. They're locked to teach patience, to teach trust, to teach that not everything is ours to control. The Golden Gate will open. When the Messiah comes, the Ark will be revealed. When God decides, the graves will empty. When the dead rise. Until then, the doors stay closed. Not because Jews can't open them, because they won't. And that obedience, that willingness to wait for God's timing instead of forcing their own, is what has kept the Jewish people alive for 4,000 years, while empires rose and fell, while civilizations came and went, while conquerors demanded access to what they guarded. The doors stayed closed, and the Jews remained, guarding what God commanded them to guard, waiting for the day when the Messiah comes, when the gates open, when the dead rise, and every sealed door finally reveals what it's been protecting all along, not by human hands, but by divine will. 6 doors, 4,000 years, one command: wait. If this changed how you see ancient mysteries, subscribe.